We're going.
We're on. Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to my new interview segment that I'm planning to do, Ask the Expert. I'm hoping to chat with a number of different service providers in our area and around the country as well to talk about all different types of topics like fertility, pregnancy, birth and postpartum. And today we're talking to Amelia from Nurture Sleep, who's our baby sleep expert. Amelia, do you want to introduce yourself real quickly and tell us a little about what it is that you do?
Sure. Hi, Jess. So my name's Amelia. My business is Nurture Sleep. So I'm a holistic baby and child sleep consultant. So I really got started with this. Well, I guess the seed was planted when my eldest was a baby. She initially she started sleeping really, really well, and then her sleep started to deteriorate. And by the time she was about 8 months, my husband and I, we were just so completely sleep deprived. We were taking turns each night, basically staying up with her, trying to get her to sleep. We had her in the front pack, then we try and transition her into the cot and she'd wake. It was horrific. I was back at work as well, so I was trying to hold down a job and manage on very little sleep. Yep. Yeah. It was terrible. And we definitely got to that point where we're like, okay, we need help and we need it like now or yesterday. So we worked with a sleep consultant, and I'm not even kidding when I say this, like within a day things turned around for her and for us. And it was amazing. Yeah, and for the most part it was making quite simple changes, but we just didn't know. We had no clue. Like first time parents, we had no clue really what we were doing, especially when it came to sleep. Lily was giving us pretty clear signs and signals about what she needed, but we didn't know how to read them. So but when we got the support, the professional support, things clicked into place pretty quickly. And I just was so grateful for the support as a mum. It was just like, oh wow, like where have you been? And even at that stage, I was working as an event manager at the time, but I thought, wow, this would be such a cool job, like being able to help people and in such a meaningful way as well, because sleep, as we know, it's so important. But yeah, I kind of shelved that, and then not long after we ended up moving to Australia. So, having left my career behind, I was looking for a bit of a change. So I decided to retrain as a sleep consultant, and then had my second daughter just a couple of weeks after I became certified. And haven't looked back since, really.
Oh, that's amazing. So do you want to talk to us about who you trained with? And you mentioned you were an holistic sleep educator, sleep consultant, I should say. And do you want to talk a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, sure. So I did my training through Baby Sleep Consultant Australia and New Zealand. So they're an internationally recognised provider for sleep consultants. And so I use the term holistic sleep consultant because what I do is I take into account and look at a whole range of situations and scenarios that might be affecting a baby or a child's sleep. So for example, I look at their sleep environment, so how dark their room is, the temperature of the room, sleep rituals, like whether there's a nice pre-bedtime routine and ritual to help wind the baby down, sleep hygiene, so making sure the baby's not overtired or undertired, sleep cues, sleep associations, nutrition as well. Nutrition plays a really important role in sleep. So I look at the whole picture really, and to get a really good overview of everything that's happening and everything that could be playing a part in not achieving quality or restorative sleep.
Mm-hmm. And that's so important, because I think, you know, traditionally we can get so hung up on just looking for tired cues and thinking we're missing the tired signs, and we focus on that being the problem, when really it can be just a whole you know, number of things contributing to it. So
Yeah.
it's really important to look at the bigger picture, and then you can, I assume, tailor the support to that family's individual needs based on what you've, you know, found might be contributing.
Yeah,
There's no
100.
one size fits all.
Yeah, 100%. And every child, I mean, there will be, you know, like with age appropriate or weight windows, for example, you know, there's a guide for each age bracket a child hits based on, you know, what they should comfortably be able to manage in terms of staying awake without getting to that overtired stage. But it's a guide. So, you know, we have to work with each child individually and assess what their needs are. You know, you could have a high sleep needs baby or a low sleep needs baby, or someone that is, you know, hitting in the average mark. So yeah, so that's why I really do like to look at the big picture and to work with the family and their dynamic and the parents' philosophy as well, and take everything into account, and then put together a really customized plan, for each client that I work with.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of leads us into some of the questions that we asked people to send in earlier. So the first one was, doesn't sleep training just mean leaving baby to cry themselves to sleep or cry it out? So,
yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
and I think that's what so many people, I think, automatically associate with you know, sleep training, or you know, when they hear the word sleep consultant or sleep coach, they just think, oh my gosh, you're just going to tell me to put my child in a room and let them cry until they fall asleep. And I can reassure you that that is not the case. It's definitely not what I suggest. You know, cry it out is a form of sleep training, and for some people, for some clients, it might be the right approach to take, but is definitely not an approach that I recommend for everyone. And it depends on, you know, the baby's age, their neurological development, you know, what their temperament is, what the parent's philosophy is, you know, how quickly the parent wants or really needs to see progress being made. So, you know, there's a whole gamut of settling techniques that we can use, and, you know, cry it out is at one end of the spectrum, and, you know, so there's a whole lot of other things that we can use. So yeah, it's definitely not all cried out.
Good. That's reassuring, like, to me, and also a number of people that will watch this, I'm sure, because, you know, as you said, it may work for some, but it really doesn't gel with our mother instinct.
Oh,
usually.
absolutely. And I guess, you know, just to go back to what you were saying, or asking about being a holistic sleep consultant, and I just want to stress that that no amount of sleep training or changing sleep habits really, unless you have those foundational elements in place as well. So having a good sleep environment, having a good you know, sleep rituals, sleep hygiene in place, making sure that nutrition you know, is good, and the baby's not going to bed hungry, there's no feeding issues that are you know, resulting in a sore tummy, and that's affecting sleep. So it's making sure that all of those elements are in place as well, in conjunction with, or even before you even start doing any sleep training. And I use the term sleep training loosely because you know, I think the word sleep training really does scare people, and it's just about changing sleep associations and gently teaching in most cases a child to learn how to self-settle.
Yeah. It just come to me then that maybe sleep support is better than sleep training, because you know, you do get that rigid picture in your mind of forcing the child to do something that it's not really ready to do.
Yeah, and I mean, babies have the ability to self-settle, but it's a, you know, it's a neurological milestone, I guess, as well. In most newborns, they will need help and assistance to fall asleep and to resettle. They also need to be fed every few hours overnight. So it's not realistic to expect a newborn or, even necessarily a 2 or 3 month old to go to sleep at 7 o'clock and wake up at 7 a.m., without having a feed. So yeah, it's, I like to, when I'm working with clients, I like to make sure that the parents also have realistic expectations and goals about what can be achieved based on the age of their child as well.
Yeah, and that's so important. I mean, there's so many adults that don't sleep a full night as well. Everyone gets up to pee or get a drink or something.
Yeah.
So it just stands to reason that our babies and our children have those same needs as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very normal. Like, as adults, we go through sleep cycles and sleep phases at night, and children do as well. And I think, when we start to see problems or parents start to have challenges is when, a child is waking at the end of a sleep cycle or in a lighter sleep phase, and they haven't learned how to resettle themselves. So a parent is having to go in and physically assist them to do so. And, and then the parents ending up, so sleep deprived and tired themselves. Yeah.
So another question we had come through: how does sleep training work if I want to co-sleep?
So co-sleep is an interesting term. I think most people would probably think co-sleeping means sleeping with your child in your bed. Co-sleeping can also mean room sharing. So sleeping with your baby in its own space. So like a little beside cot or a bassinet beside your bed, generally an arm's length away. So as a sleep consultant, and just from a safety perspective, in following safe sleep guidelines, I wouldn't encourage a mum or a dad to sleep with their baby in their bed, just because of the risks associated with SIDS. But there are, like I said, there are safe ways to co-sleep in the form of room sharing, and the benefits are pretty much the same. So it's it's an interesting term, co-sleep.
Yeah, is it still possible to do that though? Like, just going back to my own experience of sleep training, which was awful. I had to go to one of those residential mother and baby units because our son was really, really unsettled. In hindsight, we now know it was feeding issues, but at the time they just declared him as unsettled. So, my education and support was to be standing outside the door of his room as he's, screaming himself, trying to go to sleep. And so we weren't allowed to go into the room to, make any contact with him. Well, you were allowed to go in every so many minutes that he was screaming, but no eye contact, nothing. Just, tuck him back in, out you go, sort of thing. So if you're sharing a sleeping space or sleeping like the room, how does that sort of work when you're going in to resettle them? Like if you're not allowed to, or are you allowed to, using your methods? Are you allowed to go in and make contact with them?
and
engage?
So and most parents these days do actually room share with their little one until they're about, and the World Health Organization actually recommends that you room share until 6 or 12 months. And it is still very possible to change sleep habits and introduce new settling methods while room sharing. So if you are, for example, using space soothing, which is like you just mentioned, so you would do check-in consoles at timed intervals. So if you could still just stay in bed and not physically respond to your child, or you could, and this is depending on what the parent feels more comfortable doing, the parents could sleep in another room for a few nights until they got on top of the issue, and then move back into the bedroom and continue room sharing.
I just got notification that this meeting's going to time out in 10 minutes, so technology. We've talked too long before. But we'll try and go through the questions, the rest of the questions, as quickly as we can, which The next one was, can I use sleep training if I breastfeed to sleep?
Yeah, so again, it depends on what your what outcomes you want to achieve through sleep training. What your philosophy is as a parent. Feeding to sleep is a sleep association, and it's a very, very common one. I always like to say to people or to parents that have newborns, like during that newborn phase, it's completely normal to feed your child to sleep. And I wouldn't be too concerned during those initial 3 months about, I mean, yes, there are things you can do to start putting in place positive sleep associations. But feeding to sleep is, it's a normal, natural thing to do. If you wanted to take a gentle approach to changing sleep associations, then you can still feed to sleep or feed to calm. So you could start to change that association by just feeding your baby until they were calm and then taking them off the breast and then putting them down in their cot. So you don't have to go from, feeding to sleep and then all of a sudden to using an approach like space soothing if that felt too drastic a change and too much.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So a little bit about the way you work. What ages do you work with?
So I'm trained to work with 0 to 5-year-olds. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. It's not just the babies, but as you know, it's common for the preschoolers.
Those challenging toddlers who really know how to push the limits and get out of bed time and time again.
Yeah. So that's good. So 0 to 5. And do you come to the family's home, or do you do virtual support, or do you do both?
I do both. So depending on, what level of support the parents want, it might just be easier for them to have a phone consult with me, or they might want me to come in and, assess the environment and, teach them some hands-on settling methods. So I offer both. It depends on what the needs are, basically.
Well, that's good. And the last thing was, how can families contact you? They've heard all about what you do, and I'm sure there's people who are like, great, she can help, she's the one. So how can they reach out to you?
So I have my website, so nurturesleep.com.au, so they can contact me by there. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, so at nurture.sleep. So they can send me a message through there as well.
Awesome. I'll pop some links up when we share this. Anyway, so that's awesome. Thanks for being my first Ask the Expert.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So if anyone has any questions, feel free to send them through to myself or to Amelia. And if you have a suggestion for the next expert you'd like us or like me to chat to, send me a message